What if a civilization didn't just survive history, but consumed it? Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we look at an absolute survivor, a civilization that weathered the ancient world, survived the Middle Ages, and drove straight into the modern era without a single definitive end. We are decoding an epic, brutal, and relentless historical engine, the power behind the longest continuous civilization on Earth.
5,000 years. Just let that number sink in. Because to truly grasp modern China, you have to understand the immense scale of its past. We usually look at history as a straight line, a sequence of events. But here, you have to wrap your head around the sheer magnitude of time and the patterns that repeat, over and over again.
Because this wasn't a peaceful journey. It wasn't a straight line of progress. It was a violently swinging pendulum, a brutal, recurring historical engine built on monumental rises, violent fractures, and inevitable rebirths. A cycle of unparalleled wealth, unthinkable bloodshed, and constant reinvention.
Section 1. The Ancient Historical Engine. Let's look at the spark that ignited this entire cycle.
We have to go way back, to early settlements facing total annihilation from the Yellow River floods. Out of that watery chaos stepped a legendary figure, Yu the engineer. He saved his people not with a sword, but with an ingenious canal system. His massive success established an absolute core concept of Chinese history, the mandate of heaven. This means ruling power isn't some unquestionable divine right. It's a conditional lease. Heaven grants power to the just and violently yanks it away from the wicked. Take Emperor Zhe, a corrupt, sadistic tyrant. Under the mandate of heaven, his cruelty signaled that heaven had rejected him, meaning overthrowing him wasn't just a rebellion, it was a justified necessity.
Section 2. The War from Mines. Fast forward to the Eastern Zhou period, starting around 771 BCE. Out of an era of massive instability, feudal wars, and constant blood in the streets, a massive ideological clash erupted, a war for control of the human mind.
What's fascinating here is how this era pits two totally opposite worldviews against each other. On one side, Confucius. He firmly believed humanity is naturally good. His vision? A massive, benevolent family held together by respect and social harmony. But on the complete opposite end, legalism. Legalists argued that people are inherently selfish, dangerous, and that society requires strict laws and brutal, fear-based control just to survive. This intense ideological war would dictate the fate of millions.
Section 3. Unification through absolute fear. This ideological war exploded during the Warring States period. 7 kingdoms, literally fighting to the death. And that chaos birthed Ying Zhang, a strict legalist driven by a ruthless desire to violently crush China together into one single piece.
But his path was forged in blood. He barely survived a frantic assassination attempt by Jing Qi, who hid a poisoned dagger inside a map. Paralyzed by fear after that close call, his ensuing 15-year dynasty was terrifyingly efficient. He became Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor. He forged a unified cultural identity by standardizing currency and writing. He forced mass peasant labor to build the early Great Wall, but driven by deep paranoia, he ordered mass book burnings and buried 460 Confucian scholars alive. The irony: this man was so obsessed with conquering death, he built the massive terracotta army. Yet he met his end, drinking mercury-laced immortality potions.
Section 4. Golden Ages and Invaders. After the first emperor's bizarre and tragic death, that historical pendulum swung rapidly once again. The brutal unity shattered, pulling us into an era of incredible highs and devastating lows.
This perfectly illustrates the relentless cycle, shattering, and forced reunification. The Han Dynasty brings back Confucianism, then a bloody fracture into the 3 kingdoms, followed by the Sui Dynasty, harshly forcing the pieces back together. But that severe reunification paved the way for something incredible: the unparalleled wealth and stability of the Tang Dynasty.
During the Tang Dynasty, the population exploded, an unfathomable 80 million people. Its capital was the most cosmopolitan city on the planet, and the legacy runs deep. Even today, if you walk into Western Chinatowns, you'll often see them called Tangrenji, Tang People's Street. That is the lasting cultural footprint of this specific golden age.
But history never stays quiet, does it? The pendulum violently swung back,
This time, from the northern steppes, Genghis Khan arrived. And I want you to process this number: 20 million dead. That's a population roughly equivalent to modern-day New York State, wiped out. Genghis Khan used ruthless psychological warfare, decimating entire civilian populations just to send a shockwave of pure terror to the next city, forcing them to surrender out of sheer panic.
Taking China wasn't an overnight victory. It was a grinding, multi-generational campaign. First, in 1211, Genghis breaches the Great Wall in the north. Then, his successor, Mongke, unleashes intense siege warfare. Finally, in 1279, Kublai Khan secures the south, founding the Yuan dynasty. For the first time, a non-native ruler governed a unified China, eventually placing native Chinese at the absolute bottom of a harsh ethnic caste system.
But remember the core concept. The mandate of heaven doesn't care who you are. The Mongols lost their grip in less than a century. Why? Amid massive peasant uprisings, the empire was struck by a catastrophic bubonic plague. It originated among Mongol soldiers, and it killed an estimated 13 million people in China, completely stripping the Yuan dynasty of its power.
Section 5. The Century of Humiliation. The crucial point here is that after the ethnic Ming dynasty reclaimed the throne and fell to the conservative Qing dynasty, this ancient, internal, historical engine collided with something entirely new: the modern machine of European imperialism.
The collision course was inevitable. The deeply conservative Qing dynasty strictly limited trade, demanding only silver. Meanwhile, Great Britain was financially drowning, desperate for Chinese tea, silk, and porcelain. To reverse their massive trade imbalance, Britain aggressively pushed a highly addictive narcotic, opium. They smuggled millions of pounds of it, sparking a nationwide addiction crisis and bankrupting the economy. When the Qing desperately tried to protect their citizens by burning the opium, the advanced British Navy attacked, easily crushing Chinese forces in a one-sided war.
The resulting 1842 Treaty of Nanking was completely devastating. The terms were crushing. The Qing had to pay massive reparations, hand over Hong Kong, and open major ports. But perhaps worst of all, British citizens were allowed to totally ignore Chinese laws. It was a catastrophic loss of sovereignty, kicking off an era of unequal treaties that triggered massive internal chaos.
That extreme external humiliation fueled horrifying internal fractures. In the mid-1800s, a village school teacher had a nervous breakdown. He became convinced, literally convinced, that he was Jesus Christ's younger brother. He militarized a cult, sparking the Taiping Rebellion, a horrifying civil war that tore the empire apart from the inside out, killing up to an unfathomable 30 million people. Section 6. Echoes of this cycle. For 5,000 years, China was an internal engine of rise, fracture, and rebirth. But the 19th century brought external devastation unlike anything before. European powers kept striking. They even manufactured the Second Opium War over a simple lowered flag, just to burn their way into Beijing, gaining more power, and fracturing the empire on a scale never seen.
I want you to consider the immense weight of this. Think about how these massive peaks of civilization, these golden ages, combined with the catastrophic valleys of bloodshed and profound foreign exploitation, they directly forged the modern nation. That deep historical memory laid the unshakable groundwork for the unified, fiercely protective global superpower we see today. The dynasties might be gone, but the engine is still humming.
As we wrap up this explainer, I'll leave you with a provocative thought. When you look at China's actions on the global stage today, you aren't just seeing modern politics, you are seeing the echoes of these ancient cycles. So ask yourself, what happens when the ancient mandate of heaven, driven by 5,000 years of relentless history, meets the complexities of the modern world? Thank you for exploring this with me. Keep questioning the history that builds our present.